I'm joined by Council President Miguel Melendez, Council Members Mitch Gruber, and Councilmember Mitch Gruber and Councilmember Michael A. Patterson. The Deputy Mayor Mike Burns is here, as well as the Commissioner of the Department of Recreation Shirley Green, Police Chief David Smith, and Assistant Director of Emergency Communications Greg Roney, and also Deputy Commissioner Sarah Fletcher, and our Director of Violence Prevention Zekwe Tukes. And you've heard from members of this team before about our steadfast commitment to enhancing public safety with proven innovative models and methods. And today I'm excited to announce that over the next several months, we will work towards launching the City of Rochester's Action Team. That's ACTION team. Our Action Team will follow successful community responder models that have been implemented in numerous U.S. cities, including Dayton, Ohio, Evanston, Illinois, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, to address important non-urgent and non-violent situations that have traditionally been handled by the police. And just let me back up a little bit to tell you on some of the innovative models that you have seen. You've seen our PIC team, which is our Person in Crisis team, which is directly related to mental health calls in which individuals call 911 and a mental health provider is dispatched. You've seen our Nurse Navigator program, which is a program in which we work with AMR to make sure that lower acuity calls are answered through a nursing system, through our nurse navigation system. You've seen us launch our Office of Violence Prevention, which is focused on our Peace Collective and helps with prevention, intervention, and suppression. You've seen our police department, in which we've launched the violence prevention section within the Rochester Police Department. So our action team is following up on those other innovative things that we have announced. In 2020, in response to the community demand in the city, we established the Person in Crisis team then, and that has been successful. And in my previous 3 subsequent budgets, we increased funding and made the PIC team a permanent entity of city government. And about 2 years ago, we wanted to explore how we could learn from the success of the PIC team and develop a separate team that could answer a broader range of low-risk 911 calls. So in 2023, we turned to the Law Enforcement and Action Partnership, or LEAP, to dig into this question and provide us with recommendations. They submitted an 84-page report, which we are releasing today, that elaborates how a community responder team, Rochester's Action Team, could solve this issue and outline some very straightforward ways to make it happen. Not only will the action team enable us to improve responder times for lower urgency public safety issues, it will also allow law enforcement to focus their time and resources on more dangerous and urgent situations, such as shootings, drug issues, drug houses, those types of things. This is an innovative approach that requires buy-in from City Hall, the community, and law enforcement. This is not something that can just be done in a vacuum. We have spent a lot of time studying this. We have spent a lot of time putting together our plan, and we are hoping that by September, we will be able to launch this plan, and you will be able to see the members of our action team in action. A lot of this is subject to negotiation with the Locust Club, and we will be following those steps as we go throughout rolling out this in the next couple of months. Now, before I go into the next steps, I'm going to get into the details in a second about how this will work. I'm going to have some of our partners in city government say a few words, and I'm going to start with our council president, Miguel A. Melendez Jr. City Council, 5 city council members released the Pact with the People, and this was an item on their agenda as well. So I want to have the council president come up and say a few words about the action team. Mr. President.
Well, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
This is an exciting day for all of us. Around this time last year, my council colleagues and I submitted budget recommendations for the fiscal year 2025. We then followed that up with a document, as the mayor mentioned, called the Pact with the People, that focused on budget priorities that were important to all of us. One of those priorities was an investment in alternative response models. Following the LEAP study was a desire to allocate resources in this year's budget to ensure we started the process of continuing our investments and enhancements to your public safety. It is my personal belief that we need to find more and better ways and efficient ways to respond to your calls for service. Whether it is 311 or 911, the community's expectation has always been that we deliver high-quality services in a timely manner. The reality is, in our recent staffing patterns and internal challenges with hiring for some of the jobs that we do have available, time does not always meet the mark or the moment. However, today we are launching the next steps in an important process to improve service to you. I have long said that we need to right-size the job of an officer. Our officers do excellent work in our community. The demand for service is tremendous. To me, what that functionally means is that we need to look at all the call types, which this report has started that process and has done, and determine who is the first responder that should respond to certain call types, especially the low acuity, the low priority call types. As the mayor mentioned, we've done this work in other areas, particularly with mental health services and our person in crisis unit. But there are many other areas where we can expand those services. For me, this is also about providing our officers with some relief as well. I toured the 911 center and looked at the long list of backlog calls in real time. There were some calls on the list that were not medical emergencies or severe crises, but I'm sure to the person who was calling and waiting, they were extremely important to that individual. Those are the calls we need to find ways to expedite, and I believe through negotiation and collaboration, we can come up with a more efficient system that respects the roles and responsibilities of all of our public servants. So I'd like to make clear in closing that this is really about partnership, creativity, and providing the best public service we can possibly provide when it comes to public safety. As we continue conversations after the release of this report, it is imperative that we dialogue and negotiate the best ways to produce the best possible public safety outcomes for the citizens of Rochester. And as our Pact with the People describes, we will continue to focus our efforts on safer neighborhoods, quality housing, and equitable access to opportunities for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And we look forward to folks reading the report. The great thing is that we have been very deliberate with this, and we know that this is not something that's just going to happen overnight. You know, oftentimes people will say, oh, I got an idea, I just want to do it. You have to make sure that it's deliberate and that it's going to actually deliver for the residents of Rochester, because this cannot be done without residents, law enforcement, the city, and everybody working together in concert to make sure that this will be effective. I'm going to call on Dr. Shirley Green to say a few words, and then I'll also have some of our other council colleagues say a few words as well. But Dr. Green, if you want to come up and talk about some of the next steps and how this is going to lay out.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to share our preliminary plans for Rochester's Action Team. Based on research and assessments completed by the LEAP team, we know that nearly 70% of non-urgent public safety calls asking for police intervention are looking for help with conflict resolution and de-escalation. So we plan to start there. For our first phase, we are looking to hire about 10 team members who will bring experience and receive training in conflict resolution, de-escalation, and connecting community members to services. Over the first phase, these action team members will be available 12 hours each day, Sunday through Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and we will respond initially to 2 specific types of calls for service: nonviolent trespassing incidents and annoyance calls. Examples of nonviolent trespassing might include someone parking in a private property or at a business that is interrupting others coming into that business. Many of our calls for annoyances are things such as loud music or disrupting the peace. So these will be the initial types of calls. As you know, the person in crisis team members will remain our first responders for mental health crisis. They will continue to be dispatched both with and without police officers, depending on the situation, which is what we currently do. The action team will be deployed in teams of 2, but they will not be accompanied with police response. That's because 911 operators will screen the calls to make sure the action team members are only dispatched to address nonviolent, low-risk situations. In the screening with 911, they will identify disqualifying call characteristics like any mention of violence, weapons, or emergency medical needs. These calls will not be dispatched to the action team. These calls would dispatch other first responders. We have a lot to do over the coming months to be ready for our preliminary Phase 1 launch in September. We will assess our progress every 3 months and make appropriate adjustments to maximize service delivery to our residents. In future phases, we will hire additional team members, extend service hours to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and expand the types of call that the action team will respond to. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues here with me, Greg Rooney from ECD, Zekwe Tukes from the Office of Violence Prevention, Chief Smith, and Deputy Commissioner Sarah Fletcher. We will continue to have our internal meetings to establish protocols, hire appropriate team members, and train all new hires and 911 call staff members. As with most important initiatives, it will take commitment and teamwork to make the difference we want to see in the Rochester community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Green. And it's funny, I was thinking about Councilmember Patterson when we were talking about parking, because I can remember there was a month where you got probably 5 or 6 emails from a constituent, and it was related strictly to parking. So imagine this action team coming into this area, working with the NSC and others to solve this issue. That's not violent. It hasn't been escalated to any violence, but it's a person that is probably not following city code or not communicating with their neighbors, but they are making hay in an area because of parking. One of the #1 calls that we get, particularly over the summer, to the mayor's office, often relates to loud music. Loud music, parties, and those types of things. But right now, all those calls go to 911. So that means if a 911 person is dealing with that call, not saying that it's important, they're not dealing with something that might be a serious break-in, a robbery, or a shooting. So we want to make sure that we are able to equalize this, but more importantly, making sure people are getting the customer service that they need and actually solving the problem, because these action team members will be able to dig deeper because they'll also be trained in conflict resolution, which is something that is extremely, extremely important. Our community deserves continued innovation and teamwork to expand on the great work we've done together to address public safety. And rest assured, we are going to move slowly, as it was said. I have set an ambitious goal, as Dr. Green has mentioned this, to roll this out in September. And one of our next steps is to work with the leaders at the Locust Club. So we've been in talks with the president, Jeff Wader, and we want to ensure that we find an approach that honors our contractual commitments and expands public safety for the whole community. Contracts are important. As you know, I am a big friend of labor, and we need to make sure that anything that we do does not run afoul of any of our collective bargaining agreements. And at the same time, Commissioner Green will continue to explore next steps and intervention. And we look forward to Dr. Green doing a great job here. She's been doing a great job with the PIC team, her and Sarah Fletcher, and that has worked out very, very good for us. We've expanded the PIC team from something that was a pilot. We went on and made it permanent. I want to have Councilmember Mike Patterson say a few words as well. I don't know if he knew I was going to have him say a few words, but I'm going to have him say a few words and then have Councilmember Gruber close us out, and then we'll take any questions that you may have. Councilmember, sorry.
Thanks for the heads up, Mayor. All right, so, parking doesn't seem like a big deal unless you live on a street where you can't park in front of your house because a business has decided that they would take up all of the parking on your street. Parking doesn't seem like a big deal unless you are in a commercial area where another business has decided that they're going to take up all of the parking on the street. In many instances, these are repair shops. Parties don't seem like a big deal unless you're trying to sleep at night and you can't, because these folks have decided that they're just going to make this the party house. And in too many instances, it takes a tremendous amount of resources on the part of the city to address these issues. It is wonderful to see that we are making the time and the commitment to have dedicated staff that are going to be out in the community to address these issues. Now, rest assured, if escalation is required, I am sure that RPD will be a short phone call away to address the issue. But in those instances where conversation can solve the problem, there's nothing wrong with starting that conversation with city reps who will take the work seriously and have the training and commitment to get us to a sound and just resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And the good thing, I want to urge members of the media too, I know you guys I don't know if travel is in your budget, but you may want to check out Dayton, one of my favorite mayors in the country, Mayor Mims. In Dayton, they have this motto, as does other places around the country. So the good thing is that we are not starting from square one. Some of our peer cities have started this community responder model, and it's something that we hope that we will also be successful here in Rochester. I want to call up Councilmember Gruber to say a few words, and then I'll close us out and take any questions that you may have. Councilmember.
Thanks, Mayor. Given where we are in the world right now and all the circumstances around us, the thing I want to highlight is that this is an example of good government. This report right here is an example of good government. And by the way, Mayor, would this be available on the city's website?
Yes, and it's one of the best reports I've seen.
So let me just run through the process a little bit for folks. We all identified a problem, and everyone here and beyond identified the problem. We had a number of calls going to 911 that were not responded to in an adequate time. We have a number of vacancies in our police department. We have some real challenges there. We identified the problem. We ultimately hired national, and actually in this case, global experts in this space to come in and do a study. We voted for it in the budget last year. I should actually specify, 5 out of 9 council members voted for it in the budget last year, and made sure that we had the adequate dollars to go do a world-class study on how to address the problem. We do the study. There's key recommendations in here that are transparent for everybody to be able to look at and see. And this year, in the upcoming budget process, we will figure out how to make sure that we have the opportunity to fund the action steps for some real work to happen this year. And that'll be something that, again, we'll invite everyone to participate in the budget process really in June. But this is good government. This is how things get done. This is how we resolve problems. This is how we work together across departments, across different branches of government to make sure that things get done. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Councilmember Patterson. I want to thank Council President Melendez, Council Vice President Harris, Councilmember Monroe, the 5 of us who came out with a pact with the people, and all the other folks up here, because this is how good work is going to get done. Please read it, ask questions, engage with your elected officials, and can't wait to see the progress on this. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not often that my staff, we get a lot of consultant reports, and some of them are good, some of them are okay, but I've heard from numerous members of my staff that this is probably one of the best reports that I've seen. And I've been around in government at the periphery, first full-time job as mayor. This is an excellent report. This LEAP report that Councilmember Gruber just held up is they really did a good job, and I can't give enough of my thanks to LEAP for doing a great job putting out this report. It gives us a great baseline on how we can go about carrying this out. And I know some people may say, oh, it took time, but it took time because we needed to make sure we got it right. So I want to thank them for that report. And as Dr. Green noted, I want to again just remind folks, because I know people can get confused because we have so much stuff going on in city government, our PIC team will remain first responders for people experiencing mental health crises. That was announced. That is not changing. They will operate separately from the action team, whose work will be more focused on other non-urgent 911 call types, the types of calls that Councilmember Patterson so eloquently just gave you examples of. So taken together with our action team and our PIC team, along with our prevention teams in the R centers, our Office of Violence Prevention, our Rochester Police Department, and our community partners, I believe that this will allow us to really be able to improve community safety across Rochester. We have been innovative, we have been so creative, and we're hoping that this will continue to pay dividends in years to come. I want to thank my city council colleagues for their support in allocating dollars for this initiative, for the start that we are trying to do. And remember, this is just the start, and we hope that we will continue to expand this in a way that makes sense, but more importantly, in a way that will make it work for the community. So those people that are interested in making a big difference in their community, 10 slots we're going to have coming up in September. be on the lookout for those job descriptions, be on the lookout for those opportunities. Like I said, a lot of this is subject to negotiations. I want to be clear about that, and we'll have more updates as we go throughout the way. But I want to thank all the folks up here. They have spent an inordinate amount of time working on this. In the background, we allocated the money, and you probably were saying, what was happening? Well, a lot of work was happening, and it culminated in that report that Councilmember Gruber just held up, and you will have an opportunity to read that report today. Along with the press release, the report will also come out. So I want to thank you all for coming here today, and with that, I will take any on-topic questions that you might have about the action team.